All righty. So, welcome to the concluding episode of Journey Six for purpose of this book. Sixth journey through the steps with David and I since 2020, I think. Almost 2 years. So this has been a lot of fun. So Wednesday nights we are wrapping up tonight. We're gonna conclude through page 164, and then our friends Howard and Kathy are coming in to take over Wednesdays sometime in the next month or so. So we could not leave Wednesday nights in better hands, like literally could not leave them in better hands with Kathy and Howard. So excited, and we will be here to support them occasionally. And then starting in June, we are going to move to Friday afternoons, at least afternoons U.S. Central Time, 3:30 Central Time, 9:30 UK time. And what we're going to be doing starting the first Friday in June is step workshop, taking all 12 steps in 12 weeks, and really the opportunity to look at the approach David and I do to get somebody to sponsor someone through the steps quickly. So come join us for those 12 weeks to take the steps or to learn a approach to taking somebody through the steps that, of course, is going to become 100% out of the big book. All right. And I'm sure we'll have some emotional, tearful things to say at the end of the episode tonight. But now we're going to pick up. I don't know, David, is there anything you want to recap before we jump in here?
No, I think we're perfectly set up for this evening.
Okay. So we are on page 162 and second paragraph. You know what? I need to put my glasses on and I need to turn on one more light. Sorry, guys. All right, now we're ready. Sorry about that. Okay, let's do this. 162, paragraph 2. Someday we hope that every alcoholic who journeys will find a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination. To some extent, this is already true. Some of us are salesmen and go about. Little clusters of twos and threes and fives of us have sprung up in other communities through contact with our two larger centers. Those of us who travel drop in as often as we can. This practice enables us to lend a hand, at the same time avoiding certain alluring distractions on the road about which any traveling man can inform you. And there's a little footnote. That was written in 1939. In 2006, there were over 106,000 groups. There is AA activity in more than 180 countries with an estimated membership of over 2 million.
I have alluring, which means tempting, captivating, or seductive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Yeah, so someday we hope that every alcoholic who journeys will find a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination. So this destination is a bottom. That is the end of my drinking, where I am done good and for all. And I land into the fellowship, which is one part of our triangle. And so what Bill is talking about is hope, that he started something bigger than he even imagined. And I imagine he's looking down in heaven and very pleased with the results of this thing. I hope so, anyways. I mean, if we look at it in a positive sense, we have 2 million people worldwide sober. And David maybe will do some math tonight for us at the very end of this program.
Time permitting.
Time permitting, yeah. So if not, you'll have to come see us on Friday on 3:30 Central Time in June, and he will do it sometime during that process. But anyway, so we're not a glum lot. On page 132 in the first paragraph, like we need to be like, Chris Raymer talks about it. Some beams for Jesus. Yeah, I need to be like excited about what recovery looks like, so that the new person, yes, they show up at the first meeting, but what's even more important, that they show up at the second and the third and the fourth, because I made my approaches. So we want this fellowship to be welcoming. And one other thing, which is very, very important, and safe. We want the fellowship to be safe. We know that there's some people in the fellowship that don't make it that way. And I don't just mean predators. I mean people who prey on people, in a sense where they hire people who are down on their luck and they pay them under minimum wages to do work around their houses. It happens. I've seen it happen. It's a terrible thing that takes place. But anyways, back to the text here. So it says to some extent this is already true. Some of us So they're talking about salesmen. So there weren't a lot of meetings yet. There's Akron and New York, basically what was going on, eventually Cleveland. And so when meetings started popping up all over the place, people would travel, and when they traveled, they would pop into a meeting of twos and threes and fours and five. And when they did those kind of things, and I don't know if your experience is like this, but when I go out of town, I always try to hit a meeting. I love going to meetings out of town. Now, my expectations are way up here. Don't get me wrong. When I go to those meetings, like I went to a big book meeting, I think it was in Colorado one time. It wasn't a big book to be found in the place. Not a big book. It was a speaker meeting, and somebody went on about 45 minutes about what drinking was like for them. And I was like, but don't give me an opportunity to share because I have my big book and I came directly out of that thing. So that's okay. But I always like to go to other meetings. I've been to meetings in Calgary, and it's just a phenomenal experience, like just to see how other people do. A lot of open speaker meetings out west, up north, kind of things for me anyways. That would be west and north. And a lot of open meetings. So a lot of people show up that are not necessarily alcoholics and addicts, and they're observers. They're supposed to be observers anyways, not participants. But the last part of that page, the last sentence in that page says, this practice enables us to lend a hand. So lend a hand is what I'm talking about, making my approach, making people feel welcome and safe, at the same time avoiding certain alluring distractions of the road. So sometimes I'm going to find myself alone with my thoughts, right? And back then, they didn't have cell phones like we do today. We have a toolkit that was laid at our feet for inspection. Today, I picked that toolkit up. I have opportunities to do that and try to find myself a meeting which is easy to find and about which any traveling man can inform you. So, am I willing to go to any lengths? That's the question I got to ask myself. Am I still willing to go to any lengths? And again, I love going to meetings outside. Like when I go out, I'm going to Florida in a couple weeks. I will find a meeting down there. I probably only get to one possibly because a lot of it's business, but I'm going and I'm thinking it's going to be in the Keys. I'm thinking it's going to be on the beach. I'm thinking it's got to be on the beach, right? A sunrise or something like that. That'd be phenomenal. Or a sunset. I'm going. I'm going. Because I've never been to one of those. That's all I got, David.
I'll just add, someday we hope every alcoholic who journeys will find a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination. It's pretty hard not to. I mean, in North America, it's pretty hard not to. Sometimes you might have to drive a little bit, but you can always find one. And we got this other thing where we all are tonight. We're in the location of Zoom, right? Where we got some brothers here from Australia and Vietnam and Thailand, right? And then of course the U.S. and Canada. I don't know if we got any of our peeps here from the UK tonight, but I've said many times in the past couple of years in this study how grateful I am for COVID because of the development of 12-step recovery over Zoom. So what's even, people who are in AA, we're kind of spoiled because there's tons of in-person meetings everywhere, but there's a lot of smaller fellowships where there just aren't that many meetings. But guess what? They exist on Zoom now. So there's no excuse, right? There's just no excuse. The fellowships are here and available to all of us now. And then just the last bit here, at the same time, avoiding certain alluring distractions of the road about which any traveling man can inform you. This is kind of a little bit of a salacious statement here. This is talking about being on the road and getting up to no good, right? Whether it's, chasing other women or men, if you're married, or, whatever sort of behavior you shouldn't be indulging in. 21 years in, fully recovered, keeping my eye on the prize, doing all the things that I have to do to stay recovered and get closer and closer to God. I don't get into any trouble on the road, right? I'm in my pajamas in the hotel room by 8 o'clock every night. The most troubling thing I'm doing is ordering a pizza, which I shouldn't do because I'm diabetic. I just don't, this is for people who are not recovered, that kind of language, right? This is for people that might be physically sober, but they're not practicing their principles in all their affairs. My head, my heart, my gut just keeps me out of trouble, right? And as it should for all of us. Thus we grow. So we're bottom 162. Thus we grow, and so can you. Though you be but one man with this book in your hand, we believe and hope it contains all you will need to begin.
So real briefly here, you're talking about the fellowship growing, and it's still growing, because what David just pointed out with Zoom, there's meetings all 24/7 now that we can hit right from our offices, our family rooms, our kitchens, our cars, wherever we're at. And on the page 163, it says one man. So this is me as an individual and my book in hand. Again, I never go to a meeting without my big book, ever, 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 ever. And they're talking about, when people went to world wars or any wars that we're in, you could take this big book and stay recovered. You absolutely could. This is a textbook that's meant to be read and studied. And it says, we believe and hope it contains all you would need to begin. So remember, in the next paragraph, I'm going to set this up for that, is in step 3, we tapped into power, right? And that's what we're tapping into. So I can take this book and that power and go anywhere, as long as I'm spiritually fit to do that.
Yeah. So 1939, I was told there'd be no math. 61 plus 25 is 86. So 86 years later, I think we can validate this statement. We believe and hope it contains all you will need to begin. Well, we know it does. We know it does. And again, I say this all the time. We are so spoiled because we have so many resources today where people figured this out for us, right? For me, it goes back to Joe and Charlie. Those were the first guys in my life who broke this down so simple. It doesn't mean I hadn't heard other people talk things out of the book like early in my first few years of recovery, because I didn't find Joe and Charlie until after, I don't know how many years, but it certainly was not right out of the gates. I heard about them, but I never listened to them, right? So I heard some people say some important things out of the book, but those guys really took me through the book and explained those first 9 steps in a way that I really understood and really resonated with me. They came out of the book. So we know it contains all you'll need to begin. But you know what else was needed? And this is where we here, so the group of us here tonight, we have to do like Joe and Charlie and everybody else did for us, right? The people who came before us. We have to make it simple. We have to take them through the book. And that's the nature of what we're going to be doing on Fridays when we get started again. It's how do you take these steps coming right out of the book? Because I couldn't read this book at the beginning. It didn't make sense to me. I had to have an interpreter take me through it. And that's our obligation yet today, right? It's part of the obligation of the 12 step to carry this message to alcoholics. And what's this message? Well, it's this book, right? It's the problem, the solution, and how we get from the problem to the solution. And so if you sort of invert the 2 concepts in those last 2 sentences, saying we believe and hope it contains all you need to begin, well, certainly it does. But the sentence before that's so powerful, guys. Though you be but one man with this book in your hand, that's all we need. One alcoholic helping another shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, maybe we start by teaching, taking somebody through, explaining this, but so frequently, right? The teacher in the moment going through this becomes the student again too, right? How many times have you guys had this experience in the last couple of years? You've heard us say it out loud so many times. Oh my God, I never read that before. Like, who snuck that into my book since the last time I read it? Every time we go through it, something new smacks us right in the forehead, right? All it takes is one of us with the book, because it's all in here. We just got to stay a couple of pages ahead of the person we're trying to help. Top of 163. We know what you're thinking. You are saying to yourself, I'm jittery and alone. I couldn't do that, but you can. You forget that you have just now tapped a source of power much greater than yourself. To duplicate with such backing, what we've accomplished is only a matter of willingness, patience, and labor.
So yeah, Bill's speaking from his experience here. He's that's all I have anyways is my experience, but he's saying that I'm jittering alone. That's how Bill felt at the Mayflower Hotel. That's exactly how he felt, alone, even though he's in a hotel full of people right down the hallway. This is gay bar, and all the juices are flowing in there, and he made a decision. He had a choice at that point because the obsession had not taken over. The thought is that I'm going to go over here to this church directory and I'm going to make a phone call, and that's how. Thank God for that, because AA wouldn't exist without that. It says, but you can't forget. You forget that you have just now tapped into the source of power by power much greater than yourself. And that's what I was setting this paragraph up for, is in step 3, we're tapping into power to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as we understood him. So that means that, my thoughts and my actions over the God. So when I'm alone, when I tap into this power, I got to remember that prayer is my first arm of defense. That's what I need to do first, is go to prayer. In any situation, like when my sponsees call me up on the phone and they've already caused damage, I was like, where's God in all this? And where was your prayer at and all this stuff before you went into this, like, guns a-blazing, And the thing about that is that I am so adapted. I'm in prayer all the time now. I'm always thinking about, what is this, what God would have me be in this situation. So this is natural for me, because the more I practice, it becomes second nature to do this stuff. And then it just says, to duplicate with such backing, what we have accomplished is only a matter of, and I underline these words, willingness, patience, and labor. And the labor is the steps, is reading and studying the textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous, like having this book with me. One of my guys today, called me up, and he's got, say he's got 6 months, and he says, man, I just want to be like you and be able to memorize this book. I go, dude, that does not keep me sober, just because I know where a couple pages in the book are. I go, it's nice to have that at my ready, but it's not necessary to do, because the book is at my ready. It's right here in front of me if I need to do it. And a lot of times I might Google a statement because I don't remember exactly what page it's on, and I can find the page it's on. So it's like, I'm not that great at it, and I don't want to be that great at it, just for what David said, because if I get so used to what I think I know, then I can't learn anything new. All those things that the angel dropped in on that book, on that page, that it wasn't there the last time I read it. I want to have a new experience. Mark Houston talks about that. Starting every time he starts with a new person, he starts with a new textbook, so he can have a new experience with the book and have another spiritual experience. So willingness is the key that opens up the door. Patience, like, I can't be faster than God, and always willing to go to any lengths. That's the key to this whole process here. Willing to go to any lengths, never ever thinking that I'm insufficient on my own power. I need to have God's power. That's it.
Yeah. So you're saying to yourself, I'm jittery and alone. I couldn't do that. Well, what is that? That's just fear talking, right? I would say 100% of the people that I have sponsored over the years, maybe there's an exception, I don't know, but everybody is afraid to start taking people through the book. They all think they're going to screw it up, and they're going to cause somebody to go out and drink, right? We're humans. We don't have the power to make other people drink, right? We just don't. That's what the illness does. That's what the disease does. I always tell people, the only way you can do this wrong is not to do it, right? What's the worst thing? What's the worst approach you could do is you could read through the book together with your new sponsee. You're taking through the steps, and when you get stuck and they say, "What does that mean?" Say, "I don't know. I'm going to go ask somebody else. That's okay." Or what I do when I've got like new sponsees and I take them through, using this little outline that David and I have. I say, "Look, you got the outline." And like, "Well, I don't remember how to explain everything that you explained to me." I said, "You don't have to. I got a recording. I got 12 hours, an hour per step on average. Sit down with your sponsee together, listen to it, and pause it, because I bet when you're listening to me or David explain it again, you'll be like, oh yeah, now I remember, and now I can explain it to you." Like, this is not a go it alone thing. I talked about Joe and Charlie. David and I have learned so much from people who came and studied the book and talked about it before us, and that have passed away now, right? Of course, the Joe and Charlies and Mark Houston and Joe Hawk, but all these other people. Well, Charlie P has passed now, but KDP is still around, and Chris and Myers, the brothers, and Teresa, and then Frank, like Howard and Kathy. Amazing. We've learned so much from them. And Paige, oh my God, you guys all know Paige, right? So much we've learned from them. Like, it's all been figured out. It's all recorded. It's all documented. There's no need to be in fear. We've got so many cheat sheets now. It's great. It's easier, softer. And guess who loves easier, softer? All of us, right? We still love easier, softer. So there's an easier, softer way to take someone through the steps. Stand on the shoulders of those who came before, just like we've done, right? So, and of course, I'm just talking about the pragmatic, sort of mechanical parts of it. Here's more important. You forget that you've just now tapped the source of power much greater than yourself. What does this mean? It means that God is going to help me take that person through the steps. God is not going to let me fall flat on my face. If I go and I pray and I say, God, please help me do this and not screw it up, I bet I'll probably do okay. And I know this. David and I have talked about this many, many times. Like whenever one of us does a talk on Zoom, I know when God's flowing for me, or I know when God's flowing through David, because we're just going and we're carrying the message. You know, when David's trying to run the show, there's like hemming and hawing because I want to impress you guys, because I want to sound cool, right? That's not relying on a power. That's coming back and relying on my ego, because I want you guys to think I'm Captain Recovery and I know everything, and I know very little, right? So to duplicate with such backing what we've accomplished is only a matter of willingness, patience, and labor, right? So willingness, yeah, in the face of fear, face your fear. Why do I have fear? Because self-reliance fails me. So I'm going to get away from that. I'm going to have some faith. I'm going to replace the fear with faith and believe I can do this thing. And then patience, yeah, David talked about this. You know who lacks patience also? All of us. We love instant gratification. We want to be experts and masters immediately. This is not a new concept from 12-step recovery. This goes back to the dawn of man, right? Go and talk to those senseis who studied martial arts, and those martial arts have been around 5,000 years, right? They say practice this movement 10,000 times and its meaning will reveal itself to you, right? Or you spend 10,000 hours working on a trade or an art form, and then you'll master it. It doesn't come because you whip through the book a couple of times, right? And then labor. Yeah, work. It's the action. It's the study, like David said. And then it's the execution, too. It's taking people through the work. Study, yes. Continue to learn, yes. But then get out there and do it. Be into action. All right, paragraph 2 on 163. We know of an AA member who was living in a large community. He had lived there but a few weeks when he found that the place probably contained more alcoholics per square mile than any city in the country. Wow. This was only a few days ago at this writing in 1939. The authorities were much concerned. He got in touch with a prominent psychiatrist who had undertaken certain responsibilities for the mental health of the community. The doctor proved to be able and exceedingly anxious to adopt any workable method of handling the situation. So he inquired, what did our friend have on the ball? Nothing, Brett? No? Okay.
Okay. So the A member we're talking about here is Hank Parkhurst. So his story is the unbeliever in the first edition. He was an atheist, but he was also Bill Wilson's first sponsee and considered to be AA number 2 in New York, also AA number 5 in the nation. So he lived there but a few weeks when he found that this place probably contained more alcoholics per square mile than any city in the country. That's kind of amazing that no longer is he asleep, he's dreaming, he's awake. He's actually like got his eyes peeled and he's seeing other people who he could go and help, right? That's my thing. I listen as best I can to other people in their talks. And I come across, like, I'll be on a business trip here in a week or so, and a lot of guys will be down there tying one on. But I come to find out they only do that once a year. They only do that one night, and then they're fine the rest of the week, right? They just don't. I'm not that guy. I don't drink like that. But Hank Parkhurst is like aware of all these people, because there's no meetings per se. One of them at Bill's house in New York, but that's it. So, but he figured out there's a lot of people he can help. And he says this was only a few days ago at this writing. So when the big book was published in 1939, the authorities were much concerned. He got in touch with a prominent psychiatrist who had undertaken certain responsibility for the mental health of the community. So here's another doctor who has taken it upon himself to help other recovered alcohol, or help alcoholics and drug addicts suffering from alcoholism. And the doctor proved to be able and exceedingly anxious to adopt any workable method of handling the situation. Well, the book is already published. That is the textbook. That is our Bible. That is the treasure map to the treasure. All you got to do is bust out the book, like David said. I got guys who that talk about, well, I'm scared to start sponsoring people. Well, it's not an option for you. It's an obligation. You need to approach that person and understand that you have me as a sponsor, and I have a sponsor, and my sponsor has a sponsor, and I know this. I know my lineage. And I also have, I have June, I have David, I have Emily, I have Brett. I have other people that I can go to here. If I don't know the answers, or Howard and Kathy, I can go to those people and get the answer. And I'm not afraid to go do that because I want to give someone the correct answer to a question that they pose to me or to my sponsee. So I'm not alone in this thing. Remember, the first step says we. The only time I've ever been an I was to my first meeting when I walked through that door by myself. I never left as an I the rest of the time I've been here. I've been a we the whole time. I'm a part of this fellowship. I'm a part of recovery today that you also guys experienced, and I'm a part of service. And that's what changed my life, to have a equilateral triangle with the wholeness that surrounds this process. So and then it says, so he inquired, what did our friend have on the ball? Well, he had on the ball that he had this book right in front of him. He also knew what the problem was, that we have a threefold illness, that once we start, we break out in craving, that once we stop, we have this obsession of the mind, this greater part of this illness, and we have the spiritual malady, this soul sickness that drives us back to the obsession, to this thought, and this overrides all my thinking without my permission or my consent, and I pick up a drink again. So, but he also understands that this book has one solution, and it is a spiritual experience. That's what we have to offer. That's the only thing we have. We have no outside affiliation with anything else here today. So, armed with the facts about myself, meaning I'm armed with the facts about what the problem is and what the solution is. And am I a demonstration in other people's life today that I work out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous? And there'll be times I'm in a conversation as I steal a phrase out of the book, and with a normal person, and someone may know a little bit about the text. Hey, you're a friend of Bill W? Yes, I am. Absolutely. And that's a lifelong friendship here. I have friends all over the place today, all over North America, and certainly across the pond, and down in Australia, our friend Kevin. It's like, this is amazing, right? I mean, this is so much bigger than I ever could imagine. But this is Hank Parkhurst, and remember, from 1895 when he was born to the time of his death in 1954, he still had an issue with the God thing, and he never did stay sober, and he drank himself to death.
Abby. And I don't know, I don't think you mentioned this, but I've got a note here. You have this, the city is Montclair, New Jersey?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go, guys. Either steer clear of Montclair or go there looking for sponsees. I don't know, one or the other, right? So I wonder what the city is with more alcoholics per square mile in the country now. That'd be interesting to learn. But anyway, regardless. Yeah, I mean, David did a nice job in this. I'm not sure I have much more to add other than, what was great is there was a member living in this community figured out there was a significant problem there. So what did he do about it, right? Well, he went and he cooperated with the professional community, right? Which is still a big part of what we do today in many or all of our fellowships. It's reaching out and saying, hey, we can help people. Do you have a patient who has the same problem that I do? Well, great. Give him my phone number. Here's our answering line. Tell me how I can help, right? I'll come pick him up and I'll take him to coffee and we'll talk about our common powerlessness, right? So he did this in conjunction with this prominent psychiatrist, right? And, like all doctors back in the day, and frankly, I'm sure it's the same for most doctors today, they're exceedingly anxious to adopt any workable method of handling the situation because they had nothing. Remember early in the book, the belladonna treatments and all of these crazy things, all these attempts to dry out alcoholics, and none of it worked. So once the medical association, the sort of medical fraternity, got over their prejudices, right? Because they have prejudices in the same way that any human does, and they saw, oh, this spiritual solution thing might work. They welcomed it, right? They were anxious. These doctors were seeing people just die on them right and left every day. So so this guy was willing and able, and so he asked, what do you guys have going on? And we've talked about this a lot too. There's still plenty of doctors who, brilliant and educated in medicine as they are, really don't understand addiction the way that we do. And we're not doctors, right? And we don't act like doctors. We sure as hell understand the physical powerlessness, the mental powerlessness, and that soul sickness, that unmanageability. We've lived it. It's one thing to study it. It's another thing to live it, right? And I think we may have our little math course tonight because, man, there's so much of this about carrying the message and the impact that one
Mhm.
person can make, right? So we'll see how God prevails here. Moving on. And also, I'm sorry, did I miss this? Did you give the name of that psychiatrist?
Actually, I don't know the name of that because
I've got,
the doctor in the next paragraph is the one I have.
oh, well, unless I've got a bad note. I've got Russell Blaisdell.
No, that's the doctor in the next paragraph.
Oh, you know what? Maybe my
And
circle.
the
All right.
chief
Well,
psychiatrist. I think I might have I might have gave that
oh,
bad
did Brett
information
know?
in the past. Do you know,
I have
Brett?
Dr. Howard.
Oh, that
All
makes
right.
sense actually.
We will trust Brett, Dr. Howard. Okay,
Yep,
fantastic.
that does make sense.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Okay, so he inquired, what did our friend have on the ball? Our friend proceeded to tell him. And with such good effect that the doctor agreed to test among his patients and certain other alcoholics from a clinic which he attends. Arrangements were also made with the chief psychiatrist of a large public hospital to select still others from the stream of misery which flows through that institution.
Yeah, so this large hospital that we're talking about is Rockland State Hospital in upstate New York. Rockland State Hospital. It's in upstate New York. And that doctor was Dr. Russell Blaisdell. So Blaisdell. So Hank is armed with the facts about himself. He has his book at his ready, and he proceeds to help the first psychiatrist, Dr. Howard, who introduces him to this Dr. Blaisdell. And now he's got two guys he's working public information with and giving them the information that the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous gives to us to help them be ready too, so they can help what this says in the bottom paragraph to select still others from the stream of misery which flows through that institution. So remember, especially back in the 30s, the 20s, the 30s, and probably into the 40s, a lot of low bottom cases. A lot of low bottom cases. I mean, you wouldn't even be invited to a meeting unless you're a low bottom case. I don't know that I would have qualified necessarily back in those days. I mean, I still had the picket fence, the wife, and the car in the garage. So I'm not so certain. The bottom line is we don't do that today. If you say you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic. Now, I'm not going to get into traditions because there's a lot of hard drinkers in our program too that don't necessarily need to be there. But if you're an alcoholic, say you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic, and you're welcome to come to our meeting. So that's about all I got in that paragraph.
Um, yeah, I'm not sure I really have anything to add to that one. It's mostly historical. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So our fellow worker will soon have friends galore. Some of them may sink and perhaps never get up. But if our experience is a criterion, more than half of those approached will become fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm just going to repeat that. If our experience is a criterion, more than half of those approached will become fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. When a few men in this city have found themselves and have discovered the joy of helping others to face life again, there will be no stopping until everyone in that town has had his opportunity to recover, if he can and will.
I have galore means in large numbers in abundance.
Thank you.
Yeah. So bottom of that paragraph there. So our fellow worker will soon have friends galore. So that's been my experience too. Like I have friends galore today. In the more meetings I go to, I make more and more friends. So I guess the point of that is to go to meetings so you can make more and more friends. Um, he gives a percentage here that half of those people, just like he did in the forwards of the first edition or of the book, is 50% of those people stay sober. Then 20 in the book, according to the forward, 25% went back out but came back and they had a 75% success rate. So and they became fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. In other words, they became members. And for me to be a member, it means I need to do something, not just go to a meeting and take up a chair, like actually get a home group, One home group, one sponsor. That's what I need to have. One home group, one sponsor. And when I go to the home group, I participate and I try to follow the traditions to the best of my ability. And I need to study those so I know how to participate in a home group meetings and maybe take on a position like a GSR, probably the most important position, service position in the fellowship. So then it says, when a few men in the bottom of the page 163, last sentence, when a few men in the city have found themselves and have discovered the joy of helping others to face life again. So on page 89, if you want to bounce around, we haven't done that yet tonight. Let's do it right here and right now. Page 89, when we started the chapter working with others, in the second paragraph, it talks about life will take on a new meaning. That means my spirit, my mind, and my body will be renewed to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers. This is why I go to meetings, and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. So I can see the newcomers and I can see the fellowship that I have built up around me. That is why I go to meetings today, and then to practice the principles that, and talk about the steps in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. And then it says, back to page 164, after the comma, there will be no stopping until everyone in that town has an opportunity to recover. Yeah, why not? Again, we're getting prepared for David's math tonight, right? This is setting it up perfectly. I think it's meant to be. If he can and will. That's the opposite of cannot and will not. If he can and will. So if you can go to a meeting and you can get a sponsor and you can start working these steps, then you will recover. Is absolutely guaranteed. There's never been a failure rate at this thing ever. There's a 100% success rate in this thing, as long as you do this honestly and thoroughly, and you do it that way every day for the rest of your life. I say that's not a lot to ask compared to what we talked about in that beginning of that paragraph. So our fellow workers will soon have friends galore, but some of them will sink and perhaps never get up. That means they died. That means that they went away. I don't want to die from the disease of alcoholism anymore. I want to live the life that God intended me to live all along.
Yeah, so this is the point of it. This is the mushrooming effect that happens. Groups become large, become crowds, right? Become communities. But it all starts with one person. It goes back to that top of the top of this page where it says, one man with this book in his hand. Well, one man with the book in your hand. I'm one man with the book in my hand, right? This is how this thing grows. Because what happens is when I show up and I get involved, then I've got friends galore, right? I don't know how many recovery phone numbers I've got in my phone today, certainly hundreds, right? And it's this community that's built up around them. And listen, here's the reality. Some of them are going to sink and perhaps never get up. But what's going to happen based on their experience? More than half will become fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the way that they're talking about this here, they're talking about active participants in Alcoholics Anonymous. They're not talking about people who show up to a meeting a couple times a week and that's all they do. That's not a program recovery, guys. That's just showing up to a fellowship you're claiming membership in, which again, you're welcome to. I claim membership in all sorts of things, but it's my feet that do the talking, not my ass in the chair, right? On the uncomfortable chair drinking bad coffee. And then this is the goal that, right, when a few men in the city have found themselves, have really found God in themselves, right, where they didn't have to look that hard. We learned this back on page 55. God had always been with us deep down inside us. I always say he was down in my belly and I was pouring alcohol and cocaine on top of him, trying to drown him out. So when I found myself, because I found a new relationship with God, and then I've discovered the joy of helping others face life again, yeah, no stopping until everyone in the town has this opportunity to recover if he can and will. All everybody has to do is help. We just need more help. At 2 million members, which is I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, is woefully low number for how many problem people we have out there. But if everybody just pitched in, we'd have this problem solved. We'd get everybody to a new relationship with God that needed that guidance to get there. All right, first paragraph on 164. Still, you may say, but I will not have the benefit of contact with you who wrote this book. We cannot be sure. God will determine that. So you must remember that your real reliance is always upon Him. He will show you how to create the fellowship you crave. And another footnote: Alcoholics Anonymous will be glad to hear from you. Address, P.O. Box, et cetera, down at the bottom if you'd like to write them.
So actually, so we can have contact with the guy, Bill Wilson, because
Yeah.
what that footnote is saying there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's been put in place. GSO is there for a reason. This is we need to have we can write to them, and I know my sponsor does from time to time to ask a question. You know, my sponsor is a service sponsor too for me, and he is very in tune with the traditions and the concepts and the World Service Manual and all the pamphlets and everything like that. And God, he always is challenging me all the time. He makes me very tired because he makes me use my little pea brain when he asks me questions. And I get together with him every Friday. It's like, dude, can we just talk about the weather one time, please? No, but he's always challenging me, which is good. I that's why he's my sponsor. But then it says we cannot be sure. So I can't be sure. You know, I always feel like there's so many writings of the biographies of Bill Wilson, and there's all kinds of writings, the writing of the big book. There's all kinds of things that draw me closer to what Bill Wilson, the footage of him talking. You know, we know the history of him for, real well. I feel like I know these people. Somehow they don't know me, but it says then God will determine that. So this is talking about having that power. And what this rest of the sentence is talking about, not relying on a human power. That isn't insufficient for me. You know, we go to a meeting and I always hear some young person talk about how their child keeps them sober. And I'm thinking that's human power. That is not going to be successful after a few period of time, because that little child one day is going to be a teenager and you're not going to like him so much. I promise you that, you know, and you're going to need a God powerful enough to help you through all those situations and not let you pick up a drink. But also get out of yourself by helping another human being. So God will determine that. So you must remember that your real reliance, this is a statement. My real reliance is always, underline the word always, upon Him, capital letter Him, meaning God. And then what will He do? He will show you how to create the fellowship that you crave. And I just read page 89, the second paragraph there about life, how it takes on a new meaning. And that's exactly where it started at for me in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had no meaning in my life. I had a very hard time trying to transition into a family life without alcohol or drugs, without any mind altering substance, how to go to work, how to go home after work, how to do those things without a drink or a drug. It was very difficult for me, but that fellowship was so attractive to me, and the people that God put at those meetings made me want to come back. And I was a meeting maker. I mean, I worked the steps. I was sponsoring people very early on in the program with a little bit of knowledge that I had and experience. But at the same time, like the fellowship, I went to almost a meeting every day for 5 years. It was the only place I actually was not scratching something that didn't itch. You know, I hope you don't have to wait 5 years to have that experience. But man, I felt at home. But because of that, I would have a spiritual experience, enough time to go home and practice these principles with my family for a short period of time. And then sometimes I would have to pick up a phone call a half hour later, because sometimes the things I heard in my head were fancied, not real. And I would have to call someone in the program, you know, because I can't tell that I have a disease of perception. I don't know what's real all the time, and especially early in sobriety. So I relied upon the fellowship to help me do that thing. God put that fellowship there, provided to me, so that I can be in my spiritual toolkit that was put at my feet for inspection early in the program in working with others. And then I open up that toolkit and find out that, yeah, the telephone's one of those tools. The steps are definitely one of those tools. The big book for sure is one of those tools. The fellowship is one of those tools. The sponsor is one of, and oh, let's not forget one of the most important things: prayer. Let's not forget that. That's my first line of defense. Got to go to God first. Like I brought it up earlier in this talk. It's like I love when my sponsors call me with these problems. And I'm like, dude, where's God in all this? Like, did you think about inviting Him in? And I was at a meeting Monday night. David and I were at our home group on Monday night. And one of my sponsors, who does a big book study, he's phenomenal at it. He's got like 4 years of sobriety. He kills it. He's really, really good. And but he talked about by about 10 o'clock in the morning, he was having the crappiest day of his freaking sobriety, crappiest. And it dawned on him what he hadn't done first thing in the morning. He didn't connect to that power. He was going off of self-reliance. He brought it up in the meeting. He told on himself. And he told me after the meeting, he goes, I'm never planning on doing that again. I go, good for you, bro. Lesson learned. Did you harm anyone? Is there any amends that you need to make? Because I didn't get a 10-step phone call that day. I'm just saying, so the thing about that is like, I have a fellowship that I crave, and it's right here. It's tonight. It's next meeting I go to. You're always in my thoughts. I take you guys everywhere I go. I don't go alone anymore. The we in the first step is so prevalent in my life. I never think I'm by myself. I can always rely upon you. And I always connect to that power first thing in the morning, no matter what I get. I have not done a lot of things right in sobriety, but the one thing I've done right every single day of my sobriety is I got on my knees and invited God in. I had never missed a day ever. Not because I think I'm going to jinx myself, because I would get in more trouble if I left my house without my prayers than without my pants. If I leave without my pants, I might get in a little trouble. But man, if I leave without my prayers, I'm in big trouble.
So quickly, I will not have the benefit of contact with you who write this book. Well, that's true, right? Everybody's been dead for a long time now. That's okay. That's just the age in which we were born. But we have the next best thing. We have all the lineage that has come down. And I'm not talking about the sponsorship lineage. What I'm talking about is the knowledge lineage. It's all the people we talked about before, right? It's the Joe and Charlies and everybody else who did have access, right? And it's all the people that you guys ever see and these letters. Bill carried on so much correspondence with people early on, and he gave opinions and he explained what he was trying to talk about in the book. So we've got all this knowledge transfer. We have the next best thing. Now, would it be actually, oh my God, I just had this idea. We've been supplementing our AA study with getting downloads from ChatGPT and what it sort of thinks about stuff, and it's been great. The next thing I should do is say, what do you think Bill Wilson would think about this stuff?
Oh,
Right? I listened to a movie podcast and they say, what would Roger Ebert have thought about this new movie, right? So what did Bill think? So I'll let you know, David. I'll experiment with that. But
please do.
right, but we've got all this, guys. We're not missing anything. We've had all these people who today still are, like our dear friend Paige. Thank you for being here, Paige, who just like us loves this program, loves this book, just like all you guys do. And we're constantly learning and educating and soaking it all up. And we have all these resources that we pull from to do it, right? So yeah, so we can't talk to Bill and Hank and everybody else who participate in this. We don't need it. We don't need it. We got everybody else. We've got 86 years of learned study on this thing, right? And the real important point here is the man in charge is above me and all around me and deep inside me. That's ultimately where the reliance comes from. God is going to dictate how this thing is going to go down, no matter where I'm going, no matter what's going on. This is all God's plan. I need to be along for the ride. God's plan works as it's supposed to. Am I always happy with the hand that God deals me? No, but it doesn't matter, right? I'm the agent. I'm the child, right? God's the principal. He's the dad. He's in charge. It's kind of like the Marines, right? It's like, mine is not the question why. Mine is just to do or die, And one day it'll be my time to die. Hopefully not anytime soon, but God's got a plan for that too, right? He's got my destiny mapped out. All right, and then we're going to read the last couple paragraphs, which everybody is probably very familiar with this from being read at so many meetings. We got 9 minutes, David. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation, which you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. I'm just going to finish it up here. We'll tackle it all.
Okay.
Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you'll surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
I have abandon, which means leave, give up, surrender, and trudge, which is travel on foot with labor and purpose.
Thank you, Brett. So I'm going to be brief, give David an opportunity too. And I had written a little summary for the end of this thing. I'm going to put that aside because I'd rather hear David's math. I think that's more fun. So my summary is not that important just because I didn't even run it through Chat GPT to see if it was really made any sense, to be honest with you. So heck with that. But anyway, so our book is meant to suggestive only. Yes, the steps are not suggested. The book suggested only. Remember that. That's really important. We realize we only know a little. I want to remain a student. Yes, I'm a practitioner, I'm a teacher, but I always want to remain a student. I know very little bit. That's why I go to Big Book studies. That's why I go to literature-based meetings, so I can learn more. That's why I go listen to Paige all the time, so I can learn with all the great information that she has stored up and gives to everyone so freely because she's on fire all the time. So, and then the prayer is ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who's still sick. So there's also another prayer on page 86 in the second paragraph. Upon awaking in the morning, what my meditation should look like. Won't go there, so give David a little time. And what will happen if I do that? Well, the answers will come. When? Only if my own house is in order. Have I done steps 4 through 9? Am I living the disciplines of 10 and 11? Am I carrying this message to the alcoholic who still suffers? Because that's the charge for having the spiritual experience. And am I practicing these principles in all my affairs? See, again, I have to live these steps on a daily basis here today so that I can transmit something. And then, I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to keep my house in order. Then it says, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. Here's what I don't have. This is what I don't got. I got no opinions and I got no advice for anybody in this room. That's it. I got none. If I give it to you and I sponsor you, fire me immediately. None. I only have experience. And sometimes I won't even share that with you. The answer is probably inside of you already. So anyways, see to that your relationship with God is right. And how I do that? Clear the records of my past. Get rid of my ego, deflate my ego, live in the disciplines of 10 and 11 and 12. That's about smashing my ego. My ego won't like it, but do it anyways. And this is the great events will come to pass for you and countless others. Man, hang around this fellowship long enough, hang around with the winners, and which is anybody who's working the steps, who's Big Book based, I think, in my experience, man. And and when I work with other people and I take them through this work and they start taking people through this work, I watch their very lives change right in front of my very eyes. And all I did was the message. All I did was carry the message to them. Pass for you and countless. This is a great fact for us. Remember on page 17, the bottom of page after the shipwreck, they said that was a tremendous fact. Now this is a great fact. There's some good stuff in this book, and the words are capitalized here. Great fact. That must have something to do with the relationship with God. And then it says, abandon yourself to God as you understand Him. Step 3, admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Step 4 and 5, clear away the records of your past. Step 9, give freely what you find and join us. Step 12, we shall see you in the fellowship of the Spirit. Did you know that there was 2 fellowships? The Spirit of the fellowship, what we're experiencing right here, and then the fellowship of the Spirit, which is God. And you will surely meet some of us as Brett brought up, walk with purpose. And you will surely meet some of us as you walk with purpose. The road, capital letter road, a capital letter happy, and capital destiny. And then we end this book with a prayer. May God bless you and keep you until then.
So thank you, David. So much of these last couple of pages is very clear is about carrying the message. And it goes back to the top of 163, right? One man with this book in your hand. So here's what one person can do with the book in their hand. This occurred to me a few years ago, and you guys have probably heard me talk about this more than once, but it bears repeating when we're talking about how this thing ought to be working. So we read there's about 2 million people, and if you look on the website, on AA's website, you'll see really plus or minus about 10%. The fellowship has stayed worldwide about 2 million people for decades. Why isn't it growing in a planet of 8 billion people? where 10% are alcoholics and addicts, so 800 million. Why do we have 800 million people in recovery? Why do we have 2 million in AA? And take all the other 12-step fellowships together, I bet maybe aggregated the other couple hundred as another 2 million. So there's 4 million of the 800 million people getting help that need help, right? I mean, I bet that's pretty true. So it occurred to me how I asked myself a few years ago, how can we do this better? What can I do as one man with one book? So here's the math that I came up with. I came up with this idea of 3 to the 15th power. You guys remember exponents from grade school? So it's 3, and then you got the little superscript 15, which means it's 3 times 3 times 3, 15 times down the road. So what does that mean? What am I talking about here? So I've been clean and sober 21 years now, right? And if over the course of my entire recovery, I only successfully got 3 people through the work, got them to God so they had a spiritual awakening, they got armed with some facts about themselves, and they became a person with the book in their hand. Let's say I only did it 3 times 21 years. I'm way beyond that. But if that's all I did, right? And let's say each of the 3 of them only successfully worked with 3 people. And each of them only successfully worked with 3 people. So you see it's 3 times 3 times 3. So 15 times down the line, starting from me only, is 14,348,907 people, guys. Do the math. You don't believe me? I always say this. Google it now, Google it later. Type in 3 to the 15th power. If you don't even believe that, do 3 times 3 times 3 in your search bar. Do it 15 times. You're going to get the same answer. 14,348,907 people coming from me. That's 7 times the worldwide membership of AA. Right? Why aren't we accomplishing this, guys? This is not fabricated. This is real math. One of the Ramers talks about this, piss poor sponsorship. We're having a breakdown somewhere along the chain. This is our obligation to carry the message quickly and correctly. And when I say quickly, you know how quickly we could get to the 14,348,907 people just starting from me? Like David and I talked about, in June, we're going to do this workshop, 12 steps in 12 weeks, right? So that means in 3 months, I can get 3 people through the steps. And then each of those 3 people can get 3 people. So guess what that means, guys? It takes 15 quarters. It's 3 years and 9 months. We should have 14,348,907 people in my lineage. Plus, guess who else is going to be there? David's going to be there. Emily's going to be there. Well, say there's 20 of us. Do you guys want to know what 20 times that number is? Hold on, we're going to do the math. All right, hold on.
Change this app.
Oh, I gotta get my app. Yeah, you think I can do this in my head? You're out of your mind.
Dude.
All right, so it's going to be, well, of course, it doesn't want to come up. I'll do it on my phone. The big finish here, guys. I'm on now. Okay, so we got 14,348,907 times 20 is 286,978,140 people. If 20 people get busy and get 3 people to God and equip them to do 3, in less than 4 years, we'll have just shy of 300 million addicts and alcoholics to God. There's 800 million need our help. We will have solved 3/8 of the global problem. We can do this. Not only can we do this, we are obliged to do this. I don't care what 12-step fellowship you're in. If you're in a 12-step fellowship, I know this. The second clause of the 12th step is we tried to carry this message to fill in the blank. Alcoholics in AA, addicts in CA, etc., whatever it is, gamblers, right, in GA. We have the power. What's the power? God. We are his agents. We are agents that a group of 20 people here tonight ought to go out and in under 4 years turned 300 million desperately dying addicts and alcoholics into fellow agents of God. Thank you guys for the last almost 2 years. I think Scott did the math for us. 22 months starting back on the 6th of July, 2023. Woo! Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody who was here all the time. Thank you, Brett, for all the dictionary, and June, all the dictionary you've been doing lately. Thanks, M, for pitching in and helping out. And Rob, he's not here. He's doing something fun, and he's a hockey tournament or something. But Rob was such an important part of this. Holy cow, with all his contributions and stuff he puts in
Mm.
that and the history. Couldn't have done this without him. And thanks to everybody who is here tonight, and those of you who've been with us since the beginning or just about. And we know 3:30 Central on Fridays is not going to be great for everybody. They're still working. We get it. But pop in when you can. And we look forward to seeing more of our friends from the UK joining us again. And we know all of our brothers down in Southeast Asia and on Australia. We know we won't see you because it's the middle of your night, but it's all right. We'll figure out a way to still connect with you guys in other meetings and groups. And just thanks everybody. This has been a blast. This has been a blast. I don't know what you want to add to that, David.
Yeah, I just want to ditto what David said. I couldn't have done this. It would have been very lonely for David and I to do this by ourselves. Although we probably would have tried it anyways for not for 22 months though. But I'm just saying, it's like I don't know. We might have made it about 20 months. I think by then it was like, dude, I can't be here again this week with you. But I want to thank David too. I love doing this big book study with him. We've been doing it for 6 tours through the book right now, but we're not done. You got to keep carrying this message, guys, and we want to get to that number that David talks about there. We really, really do, and I'm very hopeful that we really can. So, I want to thank everyone for participating, being a part of this. Thank you, Brett, again in June, and Emily. Thank you for stepping up again, and Rob. I know you're there in spirit, and I hope you're having a blast. And hi, Paige,
All right.
my favorite speaker.
Recording, but then